Any point for you when anything come on top?
Literally the week before both of my events, there was a murder. So somebody had been shot dead at the club or in the club. A guy come up to the door and they said, well, if you ain't going to be searched, mate, you're not coming in. And he just went like that, and he just went bang, bang, bang. Same thing at the island in Ilford. Someone come back and shoot you, and the guy goes, go and get your gun then. When someone says that, you don't let him walk away.
Yeah, you don't.
You let him walk away.
Okay, yeah.
And he come back and just went bang, bang, bang. I mean, this is the sort of mad that was going on. I always had a spot in the car park. Literally come on the radio, and he said, those guys are loading up machine guns in the car park and putting on balaclavas, right? So I said, right, okay, thanks for letting us know.
When did you get into Rise of a Foot Soldier? How did that story happen?
So this is funny, right? So
Terry, welcome to the show, mate.
Dodge, we did it, baby.
Finally we're here. Don't know how long it's taken, but we're here, mate.
I know you're a busy guy, and things just kept getting in the way.
Yeah. We're finally here.
We got here.
Good stuff, man. Let's roll all the way back. Where did you grow up, and how did you go from a club promoter to an actor and now podcaster?
Do you know something? It is like a crazy journey, and lots of people, do ask me, like when I meet them, how did you get into that? What did you, did you want to do this when you was a kid? Like when people grow up, they go, when I'm growing up, I want to be a fireman, or I want to be a policeman, or I want to be a billionaire. Do you know what I mean? People have these kind of visions of what they want to do. And when I grew up, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And my parents both worked. We lived on a council estate, didn't really have any money. So I was on that sort of council estate I was in that council estate environment. And my nan brought me up. And I think because my parents were at work, they didn't really focus on pushing me at school, checking that I'd done my homework, making sure, I was going to do well at school, and that when we got to sort of 13, my parents split up. And I think, as a kid, you around 13, your hormones are flooding through. You feel like you've been outdone by your mum and dad are split up. And I think what I did is I just got in trouble and I just fucked around, and I didn't really focus on school, and nobody was saying to me, do your exams, and I just wanted to get to the end of school and leave. And when I got to sort of 16,
Where did you grow up?
So I started off in South London.
Yeah, whereabouts?
So I was conceived in Brixton.
Yeah.
Then we went sort of Streatham, Putney, Kingston, and then we come out.
Kingston,
yeah.
Okay, and Brixton, the same.
Yeah. I was actually born in Kingston. That was my birthplace.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to live in Brixton.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have any memories of it, as I said, because I was conceived there. But my dad worked when I was born in Kingston, and we lived in Kingston and Putney. He was working for Tesco's, and when there was all those riots in Brixton, he was in the middle of all that. I also had this vivid memory of being in Putney, and there was a Tesco's in Putney High Street, and we lived above the Tesco's there. And I remember the RA was going to blow up something on that road, and I remember at 3 a.m. being woken up, going, "We've got to get out! We've got to get out! There's a bomb!" And I was literally just as a kid, like 4 or 5, just like, what is going on? And but you remember that vividly,
of course,
like
it sticks,
the
doesn't it?
panic in everyone's eyes. Luckily the bomb didn't go off, but they did find it.
So you grew up in Kingston?
No, so when I got to around sort of 7 years of age, we moved out of London because my dad was working in Tesco's. We kind of moved around, so we ended up in Bracknell. So I lived there until I was kind of probably about 10 or 11, and then my mum and dad sort of started to go like that, and then when they split up, we ended up moving to Camberley, and then obviously the recession came, and when that came, I was sort of back to square one. The guy that my mum was dating, hadn't paid the mortgage. We lost the house, but luckily, because my nan was sort of in her 90s, they put us into an emergency sort of housing. We went to the top of the council list, so we got put back in the council house, and I lost my job, and I was back to square one. So I'm trying to get a job. No one's hiring. I had to go on the dole. And it was probably a miserable year, you know, of sitting around being told no. And then I got to the point where I got so desperate, I wanted to work. Because I didn't, you know, some people would embrace it and go, oh, I like being on the dole, I sit on my arse all day and smoke pot and waste my life away. But I actually wanted to do something. So all it did was annoy me. I didn't wake up in the morning thinking, oh, great, I can have a lay-in. It just annoyed me that I wasn't earning money. So what I did was I started doing temp jobs. So I was a dustman. I was building wheelie bins in car parks. I was, putting boxes together, just any job, just so I could earn a bit more money. And obviously you can earn a bit of money, but when you earn a certain amount, then you have to come off a dole. And then just out of the blue, the rave scene had already popped off, but it hadn't really got going.
88?
Yeah, but it hadn't really got going. It was just sort of starting. And I think it was either 89 or 1990. Like, it was like an explosion. And everyone was like, you got to go to these raves, you know, they're the best thing ever, blah, blah, blah. And obviously me, you know, I'm not really a drinker. I'm not really a smoker. I don't take drugs. I was just literally, you know, running, boxing club, trying to get a job. So, you know, going to a rave wasn't really my thing. But obviously, for anybody who doesn't know, the experience of nightclubs then was sticky carpets, a guy, one DJ all night, and then there'd be what they used to call the erection section.
That's what I remember that.
And if you had that now, the guy would get cancelled. Right? But, you know, it was literally like, you know, that was the clubbing experience that I'd had. And then,
but back then, people used to go and wear suits to clubs.
Absolutely.
Do you remember you had to wear a whistle to go to a club and stuff? If you wouldn't be allowed in. Yeah.
And I think the reason they made you dress up was so that you didn't have a fight because you didn't want to ruin your second.
How did that scene move for you then? What pricked your ears up to go, you know what, I want to become a promoter?
Well, no, what happened was every day and every week in the paper, you know, ecstasy, you know, rave scene, illegal raves, and all my friends were going out, popping pills and having a great time. And everybody was sort of saying, oh, you know, you've got to go out. You're missing out, you know, the club scenes, you know, this is where it's at. Yeah. And I remember being talked into going to Stearns in Worthing. And I went, you know, with an open mind. I just walked in there and I just thought, you know, I'm not going to like this, right? And I walked in and I was like, wow. It was like walking into an alternative reality because there was 3,000 people in this. It was like an old country manor. I don't know if you ever went to Stearns. There was a guy called Mensa that used to run it. He died, unfortunately, but in a car crash. But he was the promoter and the owner of this club called Stearns. And I remember going in, seeing all these people. There was no trouble. Yeah. There was loads of great-looking girls. They were all dressed in like hot pants and bras. And all the guys were, you know, it wasn't formal. It was like, if you wanted to wear a T-shirt, some people would just wear dungarees, you know. It was very sort of expressive, you know, and nobody would look at you funny, you know. It didn't matter what colour you was, whether you was fat, whether you was ugly, whether you was young, whether you was old.
There was no judgment at all,
it was literally, arms were open, come and have some fun.
Come and party,
And I went in there and I think Evil Eddie Richards and Fabio and Groove Rider and Cole Cox was playing that night. And I remember being in there thinking, I really like this music. You know, this is really good. And girls are coming up to me going, let's have a dance. So I'm getting all these numbers and I'm thinking, this is great. I'm getting chatted up here. Right. So I thought, this is what I want to do. Like, you know, when you have one of them light bulb moments. So I've come out of this club and I think it's shut 4 a.m. and I've like walked outside and there's all these guys giving flyers out. So I sort of said, oh, do you get paid for this, mate? He was like, yeah, we work for the flying squad. And I was like, oh, have you got any jobs?
The flying squad, I haven't heard that for years.
Yeah. But they would have,
they're the originals. Yeah.
And then he said, I'll ring this guy, his name's Russell. So I phoned up Russell and I said, you know, I've got 20 mates who go raving every week. I said, you know, we want to give some flyers out, you know, can you get us in the clubs for free? And how much do we get paid? And he said, well, we got clubs Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? So 5 days a week, 5 nights a week. He said, you know, we can get you in all of those if you want to go. And obviously when there's these big raves, and I think they were like £25, £30 to get a ticket for, he said, I wouldn't get you in those. So I just said to all my mates, I said, listen, guys, I can get you in all these things, VIP, free, right? But the catch is you got to give out the flyers for me. I'm going to get paid, but I'm getting you in for free. So they were like, sweet, right? So I went from earning nothing to earning like £400 or £500 a week. And I was going out, obviously, Wednesday to Sunday, which was great, right? So I'm now this popular kid who's getting everyone into these VIP raves. And I then had a little bit of a fallout with the flying squad because one of the promoters had said, they weren't outside a club flying. Okay. So the guy phoned me and said, I'm not going to pay you for that club because you weren't there. I said, we definitely were. And he said, well, the guy said, look, mate, I told you I was there. And I said, you got to pay me the money, right? And he said, I'm not paying you the money. I said, okay, stick the man up your ass. I said, I'm going to set up a company. I'm going to take all your customers. Okay. And he was like, yeah, we've heard it all before, blah, blah, blah. But that's exactly what we did. And then we set up a company called Turbo Promotions, and we all had these bright red jackets. So if anybody,
what year are we talking here?
This would have been the early 90s. Okay. So if you went outside any club, you'd have probably seen 30 or 40 girls and guys in bright red jackets with a little Turbo Promotions on the back. And I hyped them all up. So I said, when you're outside, start shouting and screaming, go, come and get this and you. And if you're giving out the World Dance flyers, say World Dance, blah, 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 Lid Airport, so it become like a market. You come out of a club and everyone's a bit sort of mangled up when they come out. But then if they're outside, how you doing, mate? World Dance next week. Do you want to get a ticket? And everyone's like, oh, yeah, mate, thanks. Whereas if you're just standing there, and a lot of the people that are giving the flyers out have been partying themselves.
That's right. So they're all mangled, aren't they?
They were stood there like just dropping the flyers over the floor. But we were out there all having a laugh. And then I looked at the back of the flyers and I started thinking, where I live in Surrey, in Camberley, there's nobody selling tickets in the whole of Surrey. So I literally got on the phone to all the promoters and said, look, I'm giving out your flyers. Why don't you put me on as a ticket tout? And in some of these big raves, I mean, I would sell 500 or 1,000 tickets. And obviously, if you're getting £2 to £3 a ticket, and there's 2 or 3 of them on a week, all of a sudden I'm now earning thousands a week, right? So I then went, come off the dole, did that for about a year. And then I had this mad idea to set up a rave magazine. And I used to like Viz, and I used to like a comic called Mad, right? And I thought I need to do one of these for the rave scene. So the concept of the Scene magazine was born.
Is that what it's called, the Scene?
Yeah. Okay. And it just like a 16-page black and white. Yeah. I just rang up a couple of promoters, said, "Do you want to put an advert in?" Yeah. Wrote a few articles.
Give us a couple £100 per advert.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to pay for it.
Yeah.
Gave them all out, and everyone started going, "Oh, I like this." And then I thought, well, actually, let's move it up a little bit and actually make it into a magazine. So then we started. I recruited my mum as the agony aunt. Quality. But obviously she wasn't really the agony aunt. But she, I don't know if you remember those mad glasses that they were like, they were nerd specs.
Right.
And you put them on.
Oh, yeah.
So
they were like Coke bottle glasses.
So she had them like on the side. She had like a little shawl on, right, and a cigarette in her mouth. And she was called Auntie Trisha. Yeah. Right. And she'd solve all your rave problems. So we used to just make up all these stupid rave problems. Yeah. And she'd answer them. But it was just a piss take.
Yeah.
And then what we did was we had a page called Mate in the State. So we got people to send pictures of their mates in the
quality.
And just we put them in and people used to ring up going mad, going, "Where'd you get that picture? You can't put but it was just like, well, someone sent it in. Do you know what I mean? So it was probably like you've been framed, but in the magazine,
Why Turbo Promotions?
Because when I was at school, and this is another funny story, there was a movie come out again around when I was 13 called Breakdance the Movie. And there was a character in it called Turbo who was a really good breakdancer. I did breakdancing, but I wasn't a really good breakdancer. I was a really bad breakdancer. And then people thought it'd be funny to call me Turbo Terry. So that's where the name comes from. Okay. And then people either call me Turbo Terry or Terry Turbo. And I used to hate it. Right? I used to have so many sort of fights with people at school when they used to call me it, and I hated it. But as I got older, I couldn't shake it off. So I just thought, you know what?
Roll with it.
I'm just going to call it Turbo.
Yeah.
I'll be Terry Turbo all day long. And my company's called Turbo Promotions. But then with the magazine, as we sort of went along, Dave Courtney, rest his soul, I interviewed him and Jenny at the time because they was doing music, and he said, "Oh, I'll write an article for your magazine."
He's a funny man.
He was hilarious. He's like a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
And he did it was like Dodgy Dave's Raves page, right? So
is that what it was called?
so it'd be like 2 pages of him just going on a rampage, telling funny stories, and sharing these like rave exploits with everybody. It was really good fun. Yeah. And then like you fast forwarded a couple of years, and then I think he actually got arrested and went to jail, and he was in Belmarsh. And I said to him, I said, "Look, Dave, you know, I don't know, I'm gonna have to get somebody else to write this while you're inside." And he goes, no, we're gonna call it Dodgy Dave's Rave page from the inside. so he did all the funny stuff about the jail, some of the characters that he was sort of banged up with, and it was actually quite good fun. But sort of as we're going along this journey, I think it was around early '93. I've been doing this for like 2 or 3 years. The magazine was flying, the flyers were flying, the tickets were selling, you know, everything was going well. And a mate of mine just said, like, an off the cuff remark, and this is a reoccurring thing throughout my life, where somebody says something to me and I latch onto it, and then I go with it. And that was one of the things that he said, "Look, you've done the magazine, you're doing the flyers, doing the tickets, why don't you put a rave on?" And I was like, "You're right, why aren't I putting a rave on?" And there was a track, which you'll remember, Dodge, called OneNation Under a Groove. And that track, the lyrics, OneNation Under a Groove, getting down just for the fun of it. And I just thought, I'm stealing that. So I had OneNation before the Conservative Party. And, you know, we registered a trademark, and I started doing OneNation events. And
so you started doing OneNation. Do you have any business partners at all? Or is it just you 100%?
No, so what happened was I did the first one.
Where was it?
At the Roller Express in Edmonton.
In where?
The Roller Express in Edmonton.
Where's that?
It was a roller skating rink, and they used to just rent it out for raves. So in the day, you'd be skating around, in the night, people would go,
quality. What was the capacity there? Do you remember?
3,000.
Free. Happy days.
So there's an old saying, right? You go big or go home. And I think I just went big. Luckily for me, I only had, I think we got about 1,100 people in, but we did it on a silly day. It was on the 11th of December. Now, most people, middle of December, you know, they're not going out. They're thinking of New Year's Eve, Christmas. But then when I did my next event, it was on Valentine's. And I did a Valentine's special, sold out, made some proper money. And then from there...
And Matt, can you remember how much it was for a hire fee back then?
It was 10 grand.
10 G's for the hire fee back then, was it?
Yeah.
Was it?
But that's for 3,000 people.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to think that...
and that was from what? From 7 p.m. till what? 2 in the morning?
6 in the morning.
Oh, they let you have a 6 in the morning
day?
All-nighter.
Did they? And that was with all the security. That was with everything.
So they would pay the security. You give them 10 G's done.
And that'd be everything. The sound system. So all I need to do...
Turn up and get people there.
Well, I rock up, and, you know, sometimes the sound systems weren't that great. So I'd add to them. And then obviously you'd bring in your own light show, your own laser team, your own dancers, you know. And back then, obviously, it was the golden days, because you pay big DJs 150 quid, right? You know, I think the most anybody got paid was 300 quid. So you were getting...
All my DJs were $1.50 or $1.20 for like 10 years. It was madness, wasn't it?
I mean, some of these guys now...
I demand 100 G's plus.
100 G's
plus.
Mate. Some are getting million. And you're just like...
We had Chasing Status at our festival last year, and I paid 30 G's for an hour set.
Wow.
Yeah. They've gone out this year for £250,000 quid.
It's crazy, isn't it?
How mad's that? Madness.
I mean, Chasing Status I know well. Sigma I know well. DJ Fresh is a good pal of mine. Like Andy C. All these guys, like, I mean, we started off together, you know what I mean? So when we was doing, when I was doing these, because when we started OneNation originally, it was a mixture. So it was hardcore, it was drum and bass. It was a mixture. So you'd have Slipmat play, then you'd have Groove Rider play, then you'd have Hype play, then you'd have DJ Side play, you know, so it was a real mixture of music. And then a friend of mine opened a nightclub in Aldershot. And
all the squaddies.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's mad.
And he said, I want you, because everyone knew I was where I lived, and they said, we need someone like you to come in here and run this, right? We want to get all the DJs down. And because I was doing it, people going, oh, Terry's, what you got to remember back then, I'm a 20-year-old kid going into London, putting on big raves against established promoters and stepping on lots of people's toes. So by doing that, people started going, God, Terry's like doing his stuff, right? So then,
what sort of character were you at the age of 20? When I was in the club like for 10 years, from 20 to 30, like properly. I'm interested in what character you were.
When you say character, in what way?
In the way you were, the way you held yourself.
I'd say I was really aggressive.
Yeah.
And I was quite mad and leery because I come from a council estate, and I doing these events. People were just sort of saying, and it all started in Aldershot because I did the first event. It went without any problems.
Yeah.
The second one, we had a couple of problems. And then we got approached to do this weekly club night. And the club in Aldershot was called the Rhythm Station. So these guys had bought it and they said, look, we've got a 6 o'clock licence. It's the only club in the Thames Valley with a 6 a.m. licence. We want you to do a Friday night and a Saturday night. So I was like, sweet. So they put all the money up. I paid for the security, but I got paid, I think it was £1 or £2 a head or something like that. So I was getting a free ride, right? So I had Friday and Saturday night out locally. Some nights when I had a big event on my own, I'll go to that. But we had this weekly club nights. It was like a weekly pay packet. Yeah. And I remember going there the night before. So this was the last week of it being a Sharon and Tracy. That's what it's called.
Sharon and Tracy night.
Club, right?
Down Cinderella's.
Yeah. And it was literally like squaddies.
Yeah.
Civilians.
Tear-ups.
And women and like people just fighting.
Yeah.
And that was it, right? So that's why they wanted to put the rave stuff on. So I've gone up to the door. I'm talking to the owner. He goes, these are the doormen. They're all parachute regiment. I was like, sweet. So we're chatting away. And all of a sudden it kicks off. And I was just like, fucking hell. Yeah. And then this guy gets thrown out. And then his wife gets thrown out. And then they start arguing. And I remember just looking at them and I was just like thinking, this place is fucking crazy. Yeah. And she took her shoe off.
Smashing it, right?
And cracked him around the head, split his head open, right? And then he starts hitting it and all the doormen have like jumped on him. And I was like, I hope this ain't going to be like this every week. He's like, welcome to Aldershot, the British Army. Yeah. But what happened was I got a really good relationship with the doorman there. And that's really, as I progressed as a promoter and as I did more events and I become a more high profile character and promoter, people started saying, look, you're rattling people's cages. You are going to get turned over. You are going to get problems with drug dealers and with different people. So you need to make sure you got your own, because there was, at the time, security firms were actually turning over promoters. Yeah. Right. So you need to make sure you're okay. And I said, well, I just recruited a couple of the parachute regiment guys and said, do you want to come and do some work for me on the raves? There was an ex-SAS guy there as well. So he come and joined our sort of security team. There was a dog handler who used to train the attack dogs for the military. So I had the guy with his 2 Dobermans, 2 parachute regiments, and an SAS guy. And then I recruited a couple of guys from London. So because I was doing the flying, outside, when you're outside the Peckham, there's a club there called the Laserdrome.
It's naughty.
Or you're in Tottenham, right? Their head doorman is like, people know who he is, right? So I said to him, how much do you get paid? And he was like, I get 200 quid a night. So come work for me, I'll give you 300 quid.
Give you free,
I only need you once a month. Yeah. Sweet. So I had this group of 10 guys that didn't know each other, but they all worked for me. Yeah. And we kept the same team for 10 years. Yeah. People did come in and come out. But, and we did have to, get involved in a few things over the years. But I think having them there, and people, and when they actually did go off, when it did go off and people saw what happened, they were a little bit like, don't do it there because they're not going to put up with it. Do you know what I mean? And it was quite, you had to sort of rule with an iron rod. You couldn't let anybody take any liberties. And one of the big liberties was a lot of the doormen that worked in the clubs in London, obviously, so they can top up their pay,
will come later on.
They'd let people in the fire exits.
Oh, right, okay.
They walk their mates through without being searched. And it's like, hang on a minute. They're all getting searched because you don't know if they're bringing guns, knives, drugs. So for me, because I've become a big, I mean, I was doing 20 or 30 events a month.
In London?
All around the world, right?
Okay. So at the peak, the age of 20, how did that business grow from 20 to 30? Did you stop the club game at 30?
No. So what happened was, as I was going along.
Yeah. So you started in the roller disco, Gaff. Then you went Older Shot. Older Shot was your weeklies. And then where did you start doing the raves?
So then what happened was, the Older Shot was the bread and butter. Yeah. Right. But then what happened was I then started doing big events. So I do the Roller Express. I do the Island in Ilford. I do Club UN in Tottenham. I do Brixton Academy. So I do these big events. Yeah. But then I'd have the weekly club going.
Yeah. And that's your banker. That's your guaranteed. And then
what happened was we used to do these tape packs. So on the night, all the DJs would play. They're like dub plates, white labels. And a lot of these tracks hadn't been released. So the record labels loved it because what happened was the DJ would play the set and all the ravers would go into the record shops going, there's this song and it's got a bass line and there's a woman singing and they're like, I don't know what you mean, right? But then the tape packs would come out and they'd go, that's the song. And it's like, we got it here, right? So we were like really the sort of marketing and promotion team for a lot of these record labels. And a lot of the DJs would break. So if they had a record they wanted to break, they'd play it as because they knew it would go on the tape packs. They know people would buy the tape packs and they know people would go in the shops and go on. So we were all benefiting from it. And then what happened was the tape packs went wide and then you get a call saying, do you want to come to Canada? Do you want to do Germany? Do you want to do Switzerland? Do you want to do LA? Do you want to do Ibiza? Do you want to do Iron Apple? Do you know what I mean? And then other promoters would approach me and say, do you want to do a party in Manchester? Now, how we did so many events a month was we licensed the name. So it was literally like, you bring me up, Dodge, and go, I've got a club in Bournemouth for 1,000 people. Yeah. I want to use the OneNation name.
You'll say, give me $1,000 or a couple of grand, away you go.
Yeah. So what would happen is you'd have Dodge Woodall, Terry Stone, OneNation. My mate would come down, put a backdrop up, pick the money up. I'd give him something for doing it. He'd have a good night out. You'd obviously make the majority of the money, but then I'm getting a free marketing campaign because you're advertising it, marketing in Bournemouth. So when I'm doing my big event, then people that have been to your event all go, do you know what? It's a bit like this podcast, right? There's people, and I'm hopefully you're going to come on mine as well, right? but the thing is, people see it and they go, oh, he's got a podcast. I'll go and have a listen to that. It's the same with the events. Like when you're doing these events, if we're collaborating and people are going to the events and they're going, this is good. When I'm doing a bigger one, they're going, oh, I'll do that. And then because you made a load of money, you're going, I want to book him 3 dates, Tel. So I'm like, sweet. So then you'd be my guy in Bournemouth. I'd have my guy in Birmingham, my guy in Leeds, my guy in Manchester. So I'd have all these guys up and down the country. And obviously if I'm working with you, I ain't working with anyone else. So they had the exclusivity of using their brand, but we were getting all the sort of heat and all the awareness off the back of it. So without spending any money. So it was quite a smart move, but it happened organically.
How did you feel though, because you're letting go of control? If you're, I'm really protective over my brand, you're going, right, okay, I want to have an earner out of Manchester or Leicester. Give me a couple of G's. You can use OneNation. How does it feel letting go of that control, knowing how are they representing your brand in the right way?
To be honest, I would look into who's doing it, right? And if you had a history of trouble, right, or violence, I wouldn't be collaborating with you. So I'd only collaborate with the good promoters. I mean, obviously that doesn't mean that nothing is going to happen. But touch wood, nothing did happen, So we had a good time building that up. And then we started winning awards. We won Best Promoter at the Kiss FM Awards. We won.
What year roughly was that?
I think it was all
mid-90s.
Back in the 96, 97. Because I know we won the Kiss FM Dance Awards. We won the Knowledge magazine, and they did a thing with Red Stripe. So they did a Drum Bass Awards. We won Best Promoter 2 years in a trot on that. And then in 95, 96, I was at a black and white do that Tommy Mac was putting on, God rest his soul. And I was in the Royal Albert Hall and I'm walking across the dance floor and I see Jason Kay. God rest his soul,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Everyone's dying, right?
I had a fella on yesterday. Every one of his mates had died, didn't it? Old gangster, Ronnie Field. Everyone was talking about brown bread. It's like the last old school gangsters.
I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy,
It
yeah.
is crazy.
But that's why it's important that podcasts, we got a platform that people can tell their story before they die. Because this will go on for years and years and years, like these stories.
Well, I tell you,
I'm not saying you're going to die, but
well, hopefully not.
hopefully not.
If I come out of here and die afterwards, it's his fault. Put that in my water. But no, but as I said, we was winning the awards.
Yeah.
And when I was at this black and white ball,
Yeah.
I saw Jason Cape, and at the time he was DJing with me. And before he played garage music, he was part of Top Buzz.
Yeah.
So it's him, Mikey B, and Mad P, and anyone who's an old school raver will remember it was Cole Cox, Top Buzz. You know, it was those were the main names. You know, and Fabian Groove Rider and people like that. And he said to me, he said, "Tell," he said, "you keep booking me for these old school sets. Do a garage room, right? Garage is the next big thing." And I'd got into it, and he said, "You should do GarageNation." I said, "Look, I'm a drum and bass promoter. I like the music, but I don't really know anyone in it." And he said, "We'll do it together." And then at that night, we decided we were doing it, but it took us, I think, 2 or 3 years to actually get it going. And then in '97, that was their first GarageNation event.
Okay.
And then again, I went big.
Yeah.
It was like most people were doing 1,000, 1,500,
Yeah.
2,000. Their first one was 3,000 capacity. We only got 2,200 in, but it was like, right, okay, GarageNation, it's a new brand. Then we started doing the Coliseum in Vauxhall. We started selling that out. I mean, we run Iron Apple. We was doing all the big clubs in Iron Apple.
Were you renting out your brand in Iron Apple, or was that your full-on parties?
Yeah, so this is mad, right? So I went out there because everyone was saying it was a garage island.
Yeah.
So I went out there and had a holiday. And then one of the guys said, "Oh, this is the guy who runs the Emporium," right? So he said, "Oh, I want to do a GarageNation night with you, right? I'll do it for the next summer." It's all right. So we agreed a deal. And the deal was I get 2 weeks holiday in a 5-star hotel. He flies me in, my pals in, and we have whatever we want to drink and eat. And he basically has to just look after us for 2 weeks.
Happy days.
So, but then we get paid for the whole season, right?
Okay.
So we got paid well for that. And then the next year, somebody else comes out of woodwork. Forget him. Come with us. We'll pay you more. So it was just like a bidding game.
Yeah.
Everyone would pay you more. The clubs got bigger. But when we had the Emporium, that was in July. I can't remember the year, but it was actually quite funny because that New Year's Eve before the summer, Mega Man and Romeo was at one of my events emceeing on New Year's Eve in the garage room.
Romeo's good.
Yeah, he is. And obviously they're So Solid Crew, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we're chatting away. What are you doing in the summer? I'm doing Iron Apple. Oh, look, we've put this crew together called the So Solid Crew. Can we play at the club? I said, you be residents if you want. I said, I haven't started putting it together yet. So we signed them up. They agreed to do it. We paid them nothing, right? Really, right? And then when they're out there, their track went to #1.
Brilliant.
So we had these #1 music artists.
Your quality.
And we had literally people queuing around the block in this club, and the guys going, "Oh, Teddy, you're a genius." I'm going, "Well, you know," but it was luck more than you know.
But that's business for you. Right time, right place, right?
And the thing about the club scene, what I found was all of the stuff. It was all it all grew from. And the reason I come out of it when I was sort of 30
started
years
to get
of age,
naughty, didn't it?
It got really bad.
Yeah, I remember.
And I got to the point where I met my wife, and she sort of had never been to a rave. She was in Mayfair drinking champagne in nice clubs, and I was in warehouses in East London, rolling around on the floor with undesirables. Yeah. So when she said, "Oh, I'll come to one of your events to see what it's all about," she said to me, she said, "You need to get another job." Yeah. And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, you go to work," and this is her words, not mine, with 10 serial killers, 2 attack dogs, and a bulletproof vest. She said, "There's no longevity in this." She said, "Something's going to happen where you're either going to die or somebody's going to die and you're going to go to jail or you're going to get injured. You know what you've done, you've got away with it for 10 years. That's what she said. And we did get away with it really because now bear in mind, none of this is in the paper, but there was regular shootings in London. There was regular people on motorbikes driving past clubs, letting off machine guns.
Machetes, the lot. I remember back in the day there was a turning point with the garage where all the councils and Westminster and all that were going, no more garage. They actually stopped garage. I had a club in Wandsworth.
Which one was that?
Liquid nightclub.
Yeah,
remember Liquid opposite Club UK?
Yeah,
I had that for years. But then there was a turning point where garage promoters were outside promoting their events and they were having tear-ups with each other, coming outside, guns. It went mad. I can't remember what year it was. But it went absolute crazy, and that was the point. That was the turning point where I think garage just went. It was all,
what happened? Well,
because it started off. It did start off like this nice vibe, garage vibe, but then it just turned super naughty.
Well, the timeline for me was '93.
Yeah,
was when obviously everything was legal then. Right? Yeah, you know, the clubs were allowed to open until 6 in the morning.
That's right.
You know, the rave centre became
a bit more free for all, but legitimate at the same time.
Legitimate, right? Yeah. Before that, it was people dancing in fields, and it was all a bit moody. Yeah. But this is, you know, now legitimate business where you can legitimately go into a club, you can hire a club, you can let people in the door. You can have 3, 4, 5,000 people legally in a club dancing till 6 in the morning without any problems. Yeah. And then it was great till 96, 95, 96, and then what happened was, I went from mixing it up to then going down the drum and bass route. Okay. And then what happened was the drum and bass music producers decided to start sampling reggae artists, and that's when Jungle was born. And then what happened was, when that music changed, you started to get all the guys that were, you know, into reggae and into, you know, from like hood guys coming into that scene, and a lot of them would come in. And, you know, I used to go to some of these raves. It never happened in mine, but you walk in and people be smoking crack, and you walk in there and you smell it, and everyone's just miserable. Moody. And I was just like, I'm getting out of here, right? But that was that. I think when the drugs changed, when the music changed, the undesirables come in, and then they started, like, we had it a few times where people was like, there's a load of people coming when we did Stratford Rex. You know, we're in the heart of East London. Now, Stratford's a nice place now, like Brixton is, right? Yeah. Back then it wasn't. Back then
it was naughty,
right?
Yeah.
And literally you got these kids coming off of the train station to walk to the club, and they're getting, like, you know, held up, right? And then people are coming in the clubs, robbing people. Yeah. So we had to, you know, clamp down on it all. And, you know, it got quite hairy. You know, there was one event.
Was there any point for you when anything come on top?
Yeah, loads of times.
Give me an example of something for you personally that's come on top.
Well, when we did Stratford, we did Stratford Rex and we did the Island in Ilford, and literally the week before both of my events, there was a murder, right? So somebody had been shot dead at the club or in the club. So you can imagine I'm putting a rave on. There's 3,000 people queuing up to have a good night, and there's all murder, can you help signs. And I'm just like, you know, I had to have spotters outside. I said, if anybody says anything about getting a gun or doing this, because what happened was this happened on 2 occasions. At Stratford Rex, a guy come up to the door and he wouldn't be searched because he had a gun on him, right? And they said, well, if you ain't going to be searched, mate, you're not coming in. And he just went like that, and he just went bang, bang, bang. And he shot the woman in the cash box and one of the doormen.
You're
right?
joking,
now, my mum used to be in the cash box, right? So I'm thinking that could have been my mum in there. Do you know what I mean? And then same thing at the Island in Ilford. That this guy was mugging people inside. They threw him out, give him a good hiding, and someone would come back and shoot you. And the guy goes, "Go and get your gun then." When someone says that, you don't let him walk away.
Yeah, you don't.
You let him walk away.
Okay, yeah.
And he come back and just went bang, bang, bang. Killed one of the doormen, shot the other one in the arm. So that was when things started to get really bad.
Yeah.
But
did you ever in our club? Metal detectors come in. Yeah. Everyone's going through the detectors.
We always had them. We hired them. Yeah. If the club didn't have them, we'd hire them up. And I literally, people, they didn't just get patted down. They got like
properly searched.
Violated. Yeah. When they come in, they would get grabbing hold of them to make sure they didn't have, even the girls, because the girls would like carry stuff for the guys. Yeah. There was a thing in the Colosseum where a girl had smuggled a gun in her pants, and a guy had shot somebody in the club, and then they took him outside and put him in a wheelie bin, right? And then nobody realised, because I think it was like a derringer. It had like a, so it wasn't a loud noise. And then they put him in a wheelie bin. I didn't even know till when the council came and emptied the bin that there was a dead body in the wheelie bin. I mean, this is the sort of mad shit that was going on.
How was that making you feel? Because you were in a good pound note at the time.
Well,
you started to realise, thinking, hold on a minute, I need to get out of this game.
Well, no, when I met the woman I've been with for 23 years.
What's her name?
Maxine. So I've been with her 23 years. And we've got three great kids.
Lovely.
And, you know, we've you know, I couldn't have asked for a better person, really, right? But when I met her, she was the one that said, you know, you need to get at this. And the problem is, I think when I started off, I had nothing to lose. So if people started, it was like, right, let's have it. Because there was no CCTV.
That's right.
There was no,
everyone was just game.
It didn't matter. If the police turned up, they wouldn't care. They didn't care. Right. But now, obviously, you know, there's CCTV. Yeah. And if you go outside and you know, start fighting people, you're probably going to get arrested. And obviously, you know, I don't want to get a criminal record. So I
have you got a criminal record? No.
So I actually thought, you know, I've been lucky that I've not been stabbed or shot, and I'm still alive. Yeah. I've made, you know, 2 super brands. I've won a load of awards. I've made a good living for, you know, 10 years. Maybe it's time now to move on. And I'll be honest with you, they say timing is everything. Yeah. And selling that when I did was the right time, because literally after that, the whole scene went like that. Yeah. Because what happened with the garage scene, so it was really funny. So the jungle come in, all the aggro started, all the shooting started happening, all the stabbing started happening. And then garage come along, right? And when that started blowing up, it really blew up when the crews come. So when you had the Pay As You Go cartel, you had So Solid crew, you had the Heartless crew, you had all these crews, right? All of a sudden, everyone's going, all the wrong uns went into garage. Yeah. So we were like, thank you. But then I'm doing garage.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm
like, you moved into it. Yeah, okay.
You know, I've dealt with you over it. Now you're coming over it.
What was a bigger brand, OneNation or GarageNation?
They're both as big. I mean, GarageNation was I mean, it was one of the biggest. I mean, it was, you know, we did 15,000 people in the G-Mex in Manchester. We did, you know, OneNation, we did 20,000 in Wembley. You know, there was nobody.
Wembley Arena?
Yeah, there was nobody. I mean, people will say, oh, no, I was a bigger promoter. But there was nobody as big as us. I mean, there's nobody doing the consistency of events and the size of the events and not having any trouble. I mean, we did have trouble, but we dealt with it. And
did anyone come on top of you? Because in that game, you got promoter versus promoter, dog eat dog. Was anyone come on top of you? Do you have any death threats?
Couple, yeah. The worst one was in Manchester when we did an event at the Sanctuary in Milton Keynes, and these guys come down from Manchester. They were young. I don't know what gang they were from, but they were young guys. And one of my doormen knew the gang, right? And he said, "Oh, these are from this gang, blah blah blah. Let them in. I know, you know, the main guy." And I've told them I know him, they'll be respectful. And I was like, well, I don't really want to let them in. But if we let them in and they mess around, they're gonna go, right? So they let them in. And then within half an hour, all the bullshit starts. People start leaving. And I'm thinking, it's midnight. Why are people leaving? And I said to somebody, why are you leaving? And he said, he's got a group of guys kick my girlfriend up the arse. I turned around and then they've all started threatening me. So I just come for a good night, mate. I said, what do they look like? And it was these guys. So we've literally gone in there, obviously mob-handed, and gone, you got to go now, guys. You know, you had your chance to have a good, now you got to go. You don't know who you're dealing with, all this shit. So it's all kicked off and we've gone outside and we've just bashed these guys to senseless. And then just come back in, shut the doors. And then, because I was always paranoid of somebody on a bike coming up and shooting up the club, I always had a spotter in the car park. And an ex-military guy, and he literally come on the radio and he said, those guys are loading up machine guns in the car park and putting on balaclavas, right? So like, fucking hell. Yeah. So I said, right, okay, thanks for letting us know. I've got my vest on. But, I've got no machine guns. What shall I do? Yeah. But no, joking apart, what we did was we just locked the door. We called the police. The police, because of the type of event, and as I said, because garage had changed, the wearing the suits had gone. It was all tracksuit and trainers, and it was like hood people. So these people, and now bear in mind that they probably thought that my guy had said he knows their boss, but probably thought he was just blagging.
Yeah.
Right. So then the police had obviously were on high alert, and they had an armed response unit up the road. So they were there within 10 seconds. Literally, as soon as we rang them, they were just outside. People with helmets, MP5 machine guns, literally just standing outside the rave. And I was just like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
12:30 on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And then the inspector came and he said, you got to go. And I said, why? And he said, well, you know, they are going to kill you. He said, we know that you said that what they were doing, but we actually, you know, we got intel that somebody's come on a bike and gone off with the guns, but we've police checked them all, and they're all from this gang in Manchester, and they've all got history for firearms, you know, and violence. So we need to get you out of here. So I'm like, so I've got to leave my own rave. So I actually had an armed police escort home that night. And that to me, that was when I started thinking, you know, but it got sorted because the guy phoned the guy in Manchester and he said, this is what's gone on.
Yeah.
And then they all got reprimanded. You know what I mean? He sort of said, you know, these are people we know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can't go and play up somewhere else. Don't do this to people we know. Do you know what I mean? So we but that's why I had these different people, because I always wanted to make sure that they could actually have those I don't want to have those conversations. No, I'm just putting the events on.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure if I needed to have a conversation with somebody, that somebody could do it.
Who would protect your cash?
My mum.
Your mum, yeah. It's funny you should say that.
Like,
no, but I should say that. Like I had 12 nightclubs every week, different parts of it. I would always have family members doing the cash.
I know it sounds mad.
With the Ed Dorman with a little cheeky bung, he's on the clickers to make sure they carry up, they match up.
We used to pay the doorman to underclick, not to overclick.
Yeah. No, yeah. Vaseline the door frames. Don't tell anyone. Sure, isn't it?
But the reason I had my mum, or my close friends, or my family, was because I went through the thing that if they're going to steal off me, they're going to steal a little bit. Yeah. but I always looked after people.
Yeah,
you know, I'd always look after people, and
that's the key.
And I think when you look after people, when you treat them with respect, and you know, there's times when things have happened, and you know, I've gone on the front line, and I think at the time they were like, "This geezer's game." Do you know what I mean? He's not hiding behind anybody. He's actually right at the front, you know. And you know, as I said, when you're from a council estate and you've got nothing to lose,
and you're in your 20s,
you've got a different mindset.
Yeah, of course.
And then when I got to 30, I started thinking, you know, I need to do something. I don't want to be going out till 6 in the morning when I'm in my 40s. Yeah. You know, I'm like a wine and food man now. You know, midnight, I'm sort of going to sleep.
Yeah. Nothing good happens after midnight now, does it?
That's what everyone says. Yeah.
What was your movements after that then? You got out of the game, got out of the club. There's loads of stories in there we could go deeper into.
Yeah.
You got out of the club game. When did you get into Rise of a Foot Soldier? How did that story happen?
So this is funny, right? So I come out of the clubs, sold the brands, and then literally because
you actually sold the brands, did you?
I sold them on to other people.
Could you earn a good pound note out of that, or was that more of a
Yeah, it was proper dough.
How much do you sell them on for?
I can't tell you that, Dodge. It's highly confidential information. But no,
North or south of 50 grand?
Oh, it was definitely north of that.
Okay.
But the thing is with the brands, I got out at the right time.
Yeah,
I got out because the aggravation was unbearable.
Yeah.
And what happened because of the UK garage, I think what had happened, bear in mind, when the stuff was happening in 96, 97, the guns weren't as prevalent. But in the early 2000s, obviously everything had got worse. And obviously with this UK garage thing exploding, you know, it was literally everybody was into it. Yeah. It was like #1 hit records.
That's right.
And then you had normal people that loved it. Then you had all the hood people that loved it. Yeah. And it was just
at one point, garage was lovely.
It was.
It was like a girly crowd, a nice crowd. And
that was like, goes back to the nightclubs. When you're wearing a suit and shoes, you don't want to ruin your suit and shoes. And the problem is when the crews come along, and I'm not blaming it on the crews because the crews progressed it on. Just like when the drum and bass went into jungle, it progressed it on, right? And if you look at the drum bass now, it's kind of this weird sort of drum and bass, sort of hip hop jungle beat now. So it's kind of gone, even when you look back to 93, it's kind of come full circle.
Just hold that thought. That's 30 odd years ago.
I know.
It scares me when I think
look
93
good,
and 95.
Look good, don't I?
Did you have a barnet back then?
I did.
Did you?
I did, but no. Sorry.
What was it?
No.
Flat top?
No. I used to have
Curtains?
I used to have hair, but I used to hate having hair. And,
did you?
And I used to slick it back. And then, I had the Italian stallion look. But what happened was, I ended up going. Where did I end up going? I ended up going to. I was at somebody's house. And somebody said, do you know something? I reckon if you shaved all your hair off, it'd look much better. I went, have you got any clippers? I went, yeah. I said, shave it off then. And they shaved it off. Oh, it really suits you. And I looked in the mirror and I thought, yeah. I went home and Mum was like going, what have you done? You look like a hooligan. But to be honest, the reason I sold the business was because both the scenes after I sold it went like that.
Yeah.
Right. And the drum bass scene had just sort of, because what was happening with a lot of the clubs, a lot of the big clubs they were using, basically got sold and redeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
So when you sell and redevelop a club, unfortunately you end up with a block of flats there, but there's no club. So what happened was lots of people worried that if somebody died on drugs or there was a shooting, they lose their license. They've just got this empty real estate that's worth nothing. So I think a lot of the club owners were like, the writing's on the wall. Let's develop it. Let's get a few million quid and go and move on to something else. So all the best clubs got sold, and there was only like a few clubs left in London. And then what would happen is you ring them up. I want to do a garage night. They'd be like, well, you can do it, but you can't have him, her, him, her, him, her. And it's like, what's the fucking point of doing it then? So I couldn't promote because it was like someone saying to you, Dodge, when you do your podcast, you've got to ask these 10 questions. You go, well, that's not my podcast.
No, it's freestyle. You know what I mean?
So it's the same thing. So I said to myself, I can't operate. I want to operate. The aggravation's too much. My girlfriend, who ended up being my wife, is right, and she's always right, but she's really fucking annoying.
I'll cut that bit out, Maxine.
But you know, I sort of sold the business.
What is there to sell though?
It's the brand.
You sell the brand, but you can't. Yeah, but you can sell the brand, but you can't sell the contracts because I'd imagine they're yearly contracts.
They're still doing it.
No, but they're yearly contracts with the club.
No, there was no yearly contracts. It was
just the gigs.
Our business was like pay as you go business. So we'd rock up. Yeah. How much do you want? There's your money. We'll put an event on next.
See you next week, next month.
We'll lend you the name, pay us that.
Yeah.
So it was just, we did like deals. We did some CDs with some like mixed compilation albums with Warner Brothers and people like that. And then we did, you know, so we did a lot of stuff. We had merchandise. So we've done lots of different things. But so when I sold the brand, it was
all of that.
It was like you being a promoter with a
one-stop shop.
Okay brand. Yeah. Right. And then someone going, you can buy this brand. And you go, wow, imagine what we could do with that.
Yeah, okay.
And so they bought into my sort of 10 years of hard work. Yeah, really. Okay. I always wished I could go to my own events. Yeah. But I think when you look at it, when you look at me at school, I was the ugly duckling. I was bullied and terrorised. You know, I lived on a council estate. This isn't like a poor me story. But this is just
Facts.
How it was. Yeah. So I've gone from having the shit end of the stick to the nice end of the stick. But I think because I didn't have the right people around me, what I ended up doing was basically not appreciating what I had. And, you know, I think if I had my time again, I would have probably put everything into property. Yeah. And I definitely wouldn't have been going on concourse to New York for a weekend with just some random model. I wouldn't have done silly things like that. But I think that the one thing that success, fame, money gives you is it gives you a, you know, if you've never experienced the high life, you want to live it, right? So I don't regret it. But when I look back on it, I just wish that somebody had actually put their arm around me and said, you know, doing all this stuff isn't gonna, and this is a lesson I've learned in life. You say, I want this, and then you get it. And then you go, I want this now. Yeah. And then you get it, and you go, I want this now. And you never ever get to the point where you go, I'm satisfied. Yeah. Because whatever you get is never enough. So I think
that's not the same now at the age you're at though.
But I think the problem I've got in my life is I'm never ever happy with anything. Right.
Oh, right. Why?
Because because I always look at, if I have any level of success, I always go, this is amazing. I'm really grateful for this.
What's next?
I want to go on to the next thing. I'm never one of these people that, you know, if I brought out something that was a massive success, or I made 10 million or a billion or whatever, you're not going to see me sitting on a desert island smoking a cigar every day. I'm going to go, right, I want to, what's next? You know what I mean? And I think all entrepreneurs have that drive where they just want to get shit done. And I think that, you know.
So what makes Terry Stone happy today then?
Steak and red wine.
Yeah, mate. Join the club. There's a special day for that. One day a year in there. There's another thing added onto that. It's true, isn't it? Good job.
But I'll be honest with you. I think there's loads of things that make me happy.
Go on.
You know, I think
in business.
I think if you're talking about business, the most exciting for me is when I start something, and then I see it come into fruition. And going back to your original question, when I sold my business, my wife fell pregnant, and you know, she was sort of saying, "Oh, what are you going to do? You know, are you going to do in property, or are you going to set up a business?" And we got involved in a bar and restaurant.
Whereabouts?
In Ascot, called Marrakesh, which was, you know, a really hot bar for like 3 years. But again, with all these things, with bars and restaurants, when you own them, you have to get in and out of them. So I think I always learn from my lessons. And I think my lessons in my 20s was I had all that success, all that money, all that, you know, most people would dream about earning that sort of money that I was on, right? They go, wow, you've hit the jackpot. But the one thing that I should have realised, it doesn't last forever, right? And what I should have done is I should have actually gone to somebody and said, look, I don't know how long this is going to go on for. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 2 years. But I want to plan for the future. Because I remember people saying to me about pensions and about investments, and I'm like, I don't want to do any of that.
I'm the same. Pension, I don't want anything to do that.
But now, I'm sort of thinking, wow, if I'd have done a pension then, if I'd have been putting £1,000 a month away or £2,000 a month away, my pension might be worth £500,000, million quid, and you get all the tax relief. But the thing is then, I think as a 20-year-old kid from a council estate that's living the high life, the last thing you want to do is start talking about pensions and investments. But that's my hindsight lesson was, get the right people around you to advise you.
What people around you did you have?
Well, I didn't have anybody.
I know, but who was around you? Who were you knocking about with? Were you knocking about with? You were just everyday promoter, what gigs, people, DJs, earning cash?
I was fully immersed in that scene. So it was record shops, it was music producers, it was record labels, it was security guys, it was DJs, it was club owners. I was just immersed in that scene. I 24/7, and if I wasn't giving out flyers, doing a magazine, selling the tickets, I was putting an event on, I was doing this, I was doing that, I was on off planes. So listen, it was to anybody looking in, they'd have all wished they'd have had my life in my 20s. Anybody to say for 10 years, would you like to do that and have for that money? Anybody that says no, I'd be like, why? Do you know what I mean? So, but I think when I got to that point, Dave Courtney, going back to him again, it was actually quite funny because he wrote in the magazine and I'd sold the events. He actually phoned me up and said, "Oh, I'm making a film. Do you want to be in it?" I was like, "Yeah, why not? I'll be in it." Right. So I said to my missus, "Oh, I'm going to be in a movie," and she was all like, "Look in the mirror, mate. You're not fucking Brad Pitt, you know." so I went and done this movie, and it was low budget.
What was it called?
Hell to Pay.
And
it's not
so
great.
we're talking what, 2002, 2003?
It was. I think it came out in 2004 officially.
Right, okay.
But it was made sort of 2002, 2003. Yeah. And then what happened was, on the set, I met people like Scott Welsh, who was in Snatch. Yeah. Andy Beckwith, who'd just been in Snatch as well. Yeah. Billy Murray, who was obviously still worked the bill. Martin Hancock, who was in Coronation Street. And all these kind of gangsters. So Roy Shaw was in it. I think Joe Powell was in it. There was all these guys that were in the film. And we got chatting and someone said, "Oh, you should do this. You should be an actor. You know, you've got a natural ability." And I was like, "Really?" And I said, "What do I have to do?" They said, "Well, you've done your first job. Most people can't even get a job, right? So you've already you haven't got a drama school, you've got your first job. So all you need to do now really is get some pictures done and get an agent. So when it's that easy, I mean, yeah. So I've gone to a photographer, got some pictures, sent out a letter to the agent saying, I'm a new actor, it's my show reel, you know, I'm looking for work. And then I've got 3 of them ring me up, so we'll take you on. So I've gone home and I said to my wife, you know, I want to be an actor now. And she was like, are you on drugs? You know, she really wasn't supportive at all. She said, are you having like a midlife crisis? Are you having a breakdown? I was like, no. I said, I'm absolutely, I just want to do something because I've always loved movies. So I said, I want to have a go. So I got a little bit in EastEnders, which was fun. Did all the jobbing actor stuff. And then after a year of being a jobbing actor and waiting for the phone to ring and doing auditions and not getting them, I just thought, you know, I've made a massive mistake here. And I was actually thinking of buying the club brands back. So I see one of my good friends, who's a business guy, and I was chatting to him. We had a bit of lunch, and he sort of said, "Oh, you know, how's the acting going?" I said, "Not very well." I said, "I've only earned £8,000 this year," and I said, "I really need to do some training, and I'm going to probably have to go back to sort of school and do some sort of acting course." And I think I've actually made a boo-boo. Now, I might actually just go and buy the club events back. And he was like, what do you want to do? I said, do you know what? I wouldn't mind actually being in a movie. He said, why don't you make one? And I said, well, I've never made a movie before. And he said, look, you put on events, right? You've been 20, 30 events a month for tens of thousands of people. How hard is it to put a movie together? It's the same thing. It's an entertainment. You just need to learn a new way of doing things. So, I said, okay, well, if I get a script and I put some money in, will you put some money in? He said, yeah, I'll put 10 grand in. So I said, okay, I'll put 10 grand in. So what I did was I got on the phone to all my mates and I said, look, I'm going to make a film. I know it sounds mad, but me and him are going to put 10 grand each in. Do you want to put some money in? So I raised 140 grand for my mates and we made this film. And it was called One Man and His Dog. And it was a dog, right? But we still got some of our money back. But what it did was it opened up the world to me, because it was like going to film school,
learning your trade,
how to not to make a movie, right? And what I did also, which was really exciting, was I ended up meeting people. Then was like, oh, Terry's making movies now. So then everyone starts coming out of woodwork. I've got a book, I've got a script, I've got a story, blah blah blah. And one of my mates who I knew from the rave days said to me, why don't we do a Boys from the Hood type movie? I said, good idea. So we come up with a script, and that was called Rolling with the Nines. And that was BAFTA nominated on Rain Dance. And that's what put me on the map as an actor and as a producer, because...
How old are you then?
32, 33. Okay. So I was still pretty young.
And what's the business model of making a movie? You're raising money.
Yeah.
Who's writing the script?
So what it is, it's a little bit like building a house. So you come up with an idea, you get someone to write a script. This sounds mad, right? Because it is mad, right? And then you literally get some actors on board, and then you go out to people and say, we're going to make this film, so much it costs, and then people basically back it. Right? Okay. And then obviously if you sell it for more than you make it for, everyone makes money. If it's sold for less, then you lose money.
So give me an example. 140 G's in.
Yeah.
How much do you get back?
Well, on that first,
say the first one, you said it's a bit of a dog, roughly.
We got 25% of their money back. So we lost 75%.
So what happened to the lads who were chucking in? You're going, yeah, lads, all chucking in dough. They all come into you going, mate, we lost a load of dough. Where's my money?
No, people did it.
They do it on their own.
No, people did it because they said they wanted to support me.
Okay.
And they wanted to have a laugh. And they wanted to be in a film. And look, the beautiful thing about film is, you know, when we make a film, we're employing 100 people, right? So you're supporting the arts. Now, there's lots of ways of doing different things and working out, you know, different ways of making movies. And what Rolling with the Nines did was, we had people like Kano, who's obviously massive now, right? Yeah. We had Dizzy Rascal in it. We had Estelle in it. Brilliant. We had Jason Fleming in it. We had Simon Webb from Blue in it, and he got shot in the face. And I think one of the reviews said that the best thing in the film is when the guy from Blue gets shot in the face. And I was just thinking, that is so, critics are really hard,
they're
right?
tough.
But again, what that did was that opened it up even more, because we had a premiere in Leicester Square.
Is that right?
And then people start going, wow, yeah, it's Terry's second film. You know, he's flying.
So was it your company?
No. So what happened was, at the time, again, this is hindsight, right? When I did One Man's Dog, we just set up a limited company to make the film. When we did Rolling the Nines, we set up, we called ourselves Flak Jacket Films. But to be honest, what I should have done is, like when I did OneNation, gone into it, going, right, I'm going to set up a company, I'm going to set up a brand. But again, that's something that hindsight again, right? But what happened from that film? We've gone from a film that people have then started saying Terry's making films, to then Terry's just made another film. It's got BAFTA nominated. It's won Rain Dance, big premiere in Leicester Square. It's on all these cinemas. This is just, and like anybody who likes them sort of hood movies will say that was the start of, the hood movies. So Blue Story, Top Boy, adulthood, kidulthood, that all started around that time.
And what input did you have then? Because I'm trying to get my head around this business model here.
Well, no, so
you're going to bring the dough in. Who writes the script?
No, so what we do is so if I was doing this now,
say if me and you were doing a movie now,
and we're doing a Dodge Woodall movie, like life story,
whatever it may be,
depending on what the story's about, I would find a suitable writer. So somebody that has written something similar, and then I would say to him, here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's the end. These are the characters. Go and write something. He would then go off and write something. He'd do his own research. He'd fill in the blanks, and then he'd come back and go, here's a draft. Right. And then we read the draft and we go, this isn't great. We want you to do these changes.
Tweak that.
This character we need to do this with. And then he'd go off and do another draft. So what's good about developing content is then you have assets that you can sell, like you just said, or you can then go, right, we're making this film, and we go and raise the money for it. So I'll talk to you about some of the films we're making and this new business model that we're doing. Once we've got through this bit about foot soldiers. So what happened with Rise of the Foot Soldier was, I come out of Ascot Racecourse with a wife, walking down the high street. There was a little Italian there for a bowl of pasta and a glass of wine. So I said, we're going there. And Carlton Leach was on the door. So
what year are we talking?
2004, 2005, around that time. And he said, you're doing films now. You should make my book into a movie. And he's given me the book, and it was called Muscle, and it had a picture of him on the front. And my initial thing was, who's going to want to watch a film about a doorman? That was what I thought. But there's an old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. So what I did was, I took the book, I took his number, I went home, read the book, and I thought, actually, it's quite interesting, because there's the football hooligan stuff, there's the Nigel Benn stuff, there's the Essex Boy stuff. I mean, it's about a good film. So I said to him, look, I said, I don't mind putting up development money for this. So I'm going to back it. Right? So I put my own money up to get the script written, get the book rights, do all the stuff.
How much roughly for something like that?
I think all in it was about 30, maybe 40 grand. And if you said to somebody, we're going to get a bit of paper for 30, 40 grand, people go, are
you mad?
You're fucking mad. But it's just the same as getting blueprints for a house. Or
drawings
or
architectural drawings.
Right? Because without that, you ain't got anything. So I've developed this script, and it was based on the book, but it was also based on his story. And I think we did 3 drafts of the script, and then I went on the road and started to try and raise the money. But obviously, this wasn't 140 grand. This was like 1.3 million.
Is that right? Well, the first movie.
Yeah, so it was a lot of money, right? But bear in mind, some of these films are 100 million, right?
Yeah, of course,
So what I'm talking about is chump change to the big picture.
But did you know that it was going to be $1 million plus then when you come up with the idea, going, I'm going to put 30 in?
I got a budget done for it, and I was just like, you could make this for like 600-700 grand, but it's not going to be great. I mean, if you remember the original Foot Soldier, you had like 1,000 extras, all like smashing cars up, cars blowing up. I mean, it was like a fucking Hollywood movie, When we shot that scene in Brixton where we got killed in the Range Rover, that was a week.
Was it?
Because they had to do 3 alternative endings. We had to wear masks. They actually glued they got the crime scene photographs of the guys with the injuries, and then they cast their heads and then made them. So we actually they put these like prosthetic masks on and glued them on their heads.
Is that right?
I walked around with them for a week. So, you know, that was a 6-week shoot. But,
oh, okay.
And that's really why it costs so much money.
So you're saying like, so to do a movie is about 6 weeks. You're cramming it all in 6 weeks.
Some people would take 6 months.
Okay.
Right? But I work in that low budget space.
Okay.
Right, which is, you know, 2 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Right. And you have to cut your cloth accordingly.
Yeah.
And I went round for 2 years knocking on doors trying to get that done. I cast Craig Fairbrass as Pat Tate. I cast Roland Manukian as Craig Rolfe. Obviously myself as Tony Tucker, because when I was talking to Colton, he was like, oh, you know, you should play Tony. And then Ricky Arnett was with my agent.
Yeah.
And, you know, the director liked him and said, oh, we'll get him to play Colton.
Yeah.
And then
so Ricky Arnett played Colton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we brought in like Frank Harper. We brought in all these other different people, Billy Murray, Kirsten Waring. So we had a great cast, right? But we kept getting told, and this was what was being said, mate, no one's interested in the guy from EastEnders, right? Playing Pat Tate. The guy from the Football Factory is a great actor, but you know, you need a movie star. You need someone like Jason Statham, right? And this was off the back, and I'm like, Jason Statham ain't going to do this, right?
And it'd be a fortune.
But it's just like, you know, this is what you need to do, right? And you need to get a star, and you know, so many of these gangster films, it was like everybody I spoke to was trying to talk me out doing it. But I knew there was something good about it. So I kept on and kept on and kept on. I must have had 100 no's, right? And with me, I've always been persistent and resilient, right? And I just don't give up. So I just kept going. And then I raised, I think about 250 grand for it. And I met these guys over in Essex called Carnaby Films. Yeah. And they went, we'll have a script. We love Rolling with the Nines. We put the 1,050,000, whatever it was, in. And I remember walking out the meeting thinking, people just don't give you £1 million. Yeah. You know, it's just, this is either a fucking joke or we're going to get further down the line and it's going to be like, oh, sorry, we can't do it. Yeah. You know, one of those ones. Yeah. But it all went through and I'm still thinking, this is fucking, this ain't, even when I walked on a film set, I thought, I'll get a week into this and they go, oh, sorry, run out of money. Right. But we managed to get to the end of it and I thought, fucking hell, we've paid it. Yeah. You know, the film come out, it didn't work at the cinema, but obviously it was a massive smash on DVD. I think it's sold 1 million DVDs. So it was probably the biggest or one of the biggest crime films of, you know, it came out in 2007. So I would say, I think Lock, Stock was 98. Yeah. I think Snatch was 2000. But I'd say if you look at that period from 2000 and whenever it was to probably to the present day, you know, the films that have been massive, Football Factory, The Business, Rise of the Foot Soldier. That, you know, so we're actually in great stead to actually be in that thing. And then after that, but the deal was they wanted the rights.
Who wanted the rights? Carnaby.
So I was like, great, have the rights.
But did you not take a cut? If you raised $250,000, did you take 20%, 15% out? Or you got paid to be in it? I got paid
to be in it. I got paid to produce it. I got a producer's credit. I got an acting credit. Yeah. But what you got to remember is, I wanted to go to Hollywood. Yeah. Right. So all I wanted
was that your mindset? Was it?
I just want to act.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And I want to produce, and I'll do whatever. Right. But for me, I enjoyed the producing. I enjoyed putting the deal together. I enjoyed the process of the creative bit, creating entertainment. Yeah. Right. But I think at the time, I didn't know there was going to be 6 Rise of the Foot Soldiers in a computer game. I didn't know that. Right. So at the time, I was just like, when they said, oh, we're funded, but we want the rights, I was like, have the rights. Yeah. I don't care. I just want to make the movie. Right. And then Colton then had to sign his life rights to them. And they
Colton had to sign his life rights.
Yeah, because basically they said, we're not gonna put £1 million into this
and keep investing without
and then the film's a massive success and then you run off and do something else.
Right, okay.
Which is exactly what he did.
Right.
So he then went off and did Reign of the General, which was Rise of the Foot Soldier 2. It had Ricky playing Colton again and all the same actors playing the same. So obviously it was like passing off. So they went off and did that. And then I think it's a big lawsuit. They took the rights off him. They took the film off him. And then I think they had like a little bit of a fallout. You know, that was it. And then after that, there was another film called Doghouse, which was quite funny. And that was with Stephen Graham, Danny Dye, Noel Clark, and myself. And if you ever wondered what I looked like dressed up as a woon, watch that.
Is
film.
that right?
Yeah, that was I actually had to go to tranny school. So there is such a thing. There is such a thing in Brighton.
Yeah, as a tranny school.
So I went down there and this guy was teaching me, and it was actually quite funny. So he'd give me a pair of size 10 heels to take home. And he said, look, mate, he said, when you're at home, just walk around the house and then, you know, you just get comfortable. So when you're walking, you don't feel like weird. And it was quite funny because when I got home, we had like this wooden floor. So I put them on for a laugh and I was walking and I went, babe, where are you? And she was like, but she just heard the heels. She was like, thinking, who's Terry with? And she's like, poked her around the corner and she's like, what have you got on? I said, I'm releasing my inner tranny. And she was like, she just looked at me. She was like, only you could go to tranny school to learn to be a tranny for the film. But it was fun. You know what I mean?
So Rise of the Foot Soldier 1, huge success. It didn't sell in the cinema. Why do you think it didn't sell in the cinema if it did on DVD?
I think the problem with the cinema is if you get the right film in the cinema, like we've had films in the cinema that have done 2 million at the box office, right? But for some reason, when you do a British crime film, I think, you know, Football Factory didn't do well. I think it did 600 grand at the box office, but the business did 1.5 million, right? Yeah. But the thing is, for whatever reason, Rise of the Foot Soldier, none of the Foot Soldier films have done well at the box office. Even the ones that have, the recent ones have only done like 300 or 400.
And what number Foot Soldier on at the moment?
6.
6, okay.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know. I think the problem is there's so much competition, right? And when you release a movie, right? Well, when Paramount or Universal or Sony release a movie, they're spending 5, 10, 15 million on the movie, right? So when there's 3 or 4 of them films coming out, and there's 4 of them films that have been out the week before, because obviously in the multiplex, it's just like a sausage factory, right? So you'll come along with your little film that you spend £500,000 or £1 million releasing it on, and you just can't compete with these people. So, but obviously, you know, for us, you know, I was devastated because I was like, wow, we've got a big premiere, you know, it's on all these cinema screens. And then when it's like, oh, it's done, I think it was 180 grand at the box office. I was like, fucking hell, I've spent £1 million on it. We're in such a fucking big hole. Yeah. But then when it's went out and sold all the, and it's still selling now. Yeah. So it's.
But just bring that back, that business bit back there. You chuck in 1.3, Carnaby's behind you. Yeah. You're the face of it. You're the front. You're pulling people together, getting the script, all exciting. The business model is, let's go in the cinema. Hopefully, we'll claw that money back.
No, the cinemas, you don't get any money at the cinema.
No, okay.
So the cinema.
So where's that 180 grand come from that you said you clawed back in?
No, that's the money that's taken at the box office. So that's what the actual cinemas took.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. But what do you get of that?
I mean, it's like 25%.
Right. Okay.
Right? Now, bear in mind, the cinemas don't pay for the film. They just give you a small percentage, and then that goes back to the distributor, and then they take their percentage off. So you don't really make any money at the cinema unless it does 10 million quid. Yeah. But the only way you can really make money at the cinema is if you do a studio deal. So I've looked at.
What's a studio deal?
Well, as in, like, if you work with a studio, the studios have deals with Netflix, Amazon, Sky, ITV, Channel 5, and what it basically says is, if we sell you our film and it goes through our model, there's rates. So obviously the rates I'd get as Terry aren't the rates that you get as Paramount. So obviously if you can do a studio deal, it's always a better way to do it. And I've done a couple in my career. But my whole sort of, when I look through, you know, what I've done and what I've achieved over the sort of past, I've been doing this 21 years now, right? Is I've looked over the last 4 or 5 years and I've noticed in our business, and it's exactly like the music business, right? The control and the power isn't with the artists and the creators. It's actually with the streaming platforms and the studios, right? And the only way you can do anything to sort of disrupt this is if you come up with a new way of doing things. So I started developing a movie. And bear in mind, Rise of the Foot Soldier, from when I developed it, I think it was 2.5 years to actually get the money and get going.
Yeah, okay.
From
Is that what it was, from the idea meeting Colton at the...
No. So once we've actually done all the work, and we've actually got something to sell, it took 2.5 years to actually get to the point where we're going on the set.
Okay. So, and when you're going on a set, for example, you're going, I've got a 6-week set. Do you go to Craig Fairbrass and say, mate, there's 10 G's there, will you back us and be this actor? How does it work?
Yeah, all the actors get paid a day rate. I mean, normally on low budget films, everyone gets paid the same.
Which is roughly what?
I mean, the equity rates, I think on the first Rise of the Foot, so I think it was like £380 a day.
Okay.
And the thing is, if everyone gets paid the same,
there's no argument.
There's no egos.
Yeah,
there's no like, why are you getting 500 quid?
Yeah.
What, everyone has the same. Yeah. Everyone has the same beans on toast, the same water. Nobody's not getting. Why
is there so much beef between you and Colton Leach?
Well, there is no beef. I mean, the thing is, Colton started trolling the film, right, because of what happened to him on the second one. He started trolling the film from Rise of the Foot Soldier 3. And he started going on about, it's 60-year-old men wearing silly wigs, blah, blah, blah. What about the families? And he just kept going on about what about the families. And it's like, and to be honest, I've kept dignified silence because I just thought, I'm just going to ignore him, right? But then he kept on and on and on. And I just thought, you know what? And I did a podcast recently where I just sort of said, look, this is what's happened. And I've told you the same story, and there is no that is what happened. And, when he signed his deal, right, it's a little bit like me saying to you, Dodge, I'm going to do a deal with you. We're going to make this film. And then you sign up to it. If the film then is a big success, or if other things span out the film and you go, done a wrong deal here, it's your fault. It's not my fault. You signed it. And that's the bottom line. He signed a deal that, and bear in mind that he's had a living out of it. He's done tours. He's re-released his book. He's become famous off the back of it. And the thing is, what I don't get about him is he could have been involved in all the Foot Soldier films if he'd have kept everybody on side. If he'd have said to Carnaby, we want to do Rise of the Foot Soldier 2 now, here's a script, let's do it. They could have all done it together. But instead he went off and said, well, I'm doing it on my own. And he sort of just thought, because I'm Colton Leach. And I don't know, I don't understand what his thought process was behind that. But again, he never ever said, when we was talking about his book rights, when we was talking about his life rights, any money that I gave him, any money that Carnaby gave him, he never said, can we have a provision for the families? Can we give these people any money? So he never ever said that. So, but it's funny that he's brought that up, 5 years, 6 years after the event, and it's like, oh yeah, what about the family? But you're not involved, mate. So now let's make us look bad and make everybody think that we're basically defaming dead people and taking the piss out of dead people, and we're not giving the families anything. We didn't give the families anything. So, but that's really what it's all about. But I invited him to come on my podcast, but I said, I'll wear the wig and you wear the mankini, but he didn't want to do it.
Have you met Colton since and had a chat man to man?
No. I mean, the thing is, I'll be honest with you, he seems to have an issue with me, but I haven't got an issue with him. And I don't know, I honestly don't know why, what I don't get it. I don't get it. If he had his head screwed on, he would have just kept everybody sweet. And, he's known as the guy, the foot soldier. So, because there's all these films, there's the game, you'd think for him, if he'd have kept on, he could have kept earning money out of it. He could have been part of the crew, you know. But again, that was his choice. So he made that choice. And if you make that choice, you have to live with it.
So tell me a bit more about your podcasting. How have you enjoyed? How did you get into podcasting? What made you decide to do podcasts?
Well, you know what? This will make you laugh, Dodge, right? And it's the same thing. It's the same as Dave Courtney ringing me up saying, do you want to be in a film? To my mate saying to me, why don't you make a film? To the guy saying, why don't you put on an event? It's like, I think in life, I never went to school knowing what I wanted to do. And I've kind of gone along life's path. And what I've tried to do is I've tried to be open to whatever opportunities come along. And I meet people that are no good and they waste of time, and I meet people that are unbelievable, right? And then they take me to another level, right? So, but I think you have to kiss a few frogs as you go along, and you have to go through a few things which may or may not be pleasant, or you may have to go through some unpleasant stuff to get through the nice stuff. But I always think that, you know, as you're going through life, if somebody says something to you and they say, have you thought about this? You have to think about it, because it's very dismissed stuff. Like, it's very, like when you talk to people that are working class and you say to them, oh, you know, why don't you have a go at something? Why don't you try and do something else other than working a 9 to 5? Yeah. Oh, that's too risky. Oh, no, I like getting the paycheck every week, right? It's all right for you. It's not all right for me, mate. I've come for where you're sitting is where I was sitting. Nobody give me a silver spoon. Nobody give me a handout. I had to go and get it, right? But if you want to get it, you can get it. It's that old saying: if you say you can, you can. If you say you can't, you can't. It's all in your mind. Do you know what I mean? But I was at a meeting with a hedge fund guy and talking to him about investing in a film. And he said to me, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And I said, I've been on a few, but I said, I've never thought about doing one. And I said, you know, and the problem is it's all done, right? There's a podcast for everything, right? And he said, but has there been a really good true crime one, right? And I said, well, I think there's people that, you know, have done them well, but let me have a think about it. And I went away and I thought, maybe do one about, you know, actors, filmmakers, directors, because what I was thinking is if I have a podcast, I can obviously promote my true crime project. I'll say it in a minute. I could promote my true crime content that I want to make on the podcast. So that was my initial thought. And then I thought, well, actually, we're going to mix it up where I'll have real life criminals. I'll have anybody that's been affected by crime. I'll have actors that play criminals. I've had writers. I'll have law enforcement. I'll have barristers. Just, yeah, anything that's crime related. So I went back to them and said, you know, what do you think? And they said, well, actually, yeah, you know, we'll have a go. And they said, you know, what would you call it? And we came up with all these different names, but then settled on the Criminal Connection podcast. And we launched it middle of September last year. So probably 7 months in. I've had some really good guests. But it was actually quite funny because they actually said to me, oh, when you launch this, it's not going to be easy, right? And, you know, you're going to get, you're going to probably sit here and, you know, if you get 1,000 subscribers at the end of season 1, you're doing really well. And I was like, what are you talking about? I said, I've got to get more than that. And they said, no, you know, we just want to manage your expectations. You know, you might not get very many views and blah, blah, blah. But then we did one and we sort of hit the ground running with it. So I think we had the 1,000 subscribers probably within the first week of launch. And then obviously we've just been gradually building it. But what I've always thought weird, and I'm sure you're the same, is you could have millions of views, but you don't have millions of subscribers.
Yeah. YouTube's hard work, mate.
I mean, people really actually run me and said, how'd you do it? Because it's so hard.
People have got to really love your content to subscribe. And also a lot of people don't know that subscribing is for free. People think subscribe, you've got to pay a £1 note, like 5 or 10, it's all for free. All it does, by them subscribing, allows, every time you pop up, just go bing.
Well, I think the reason it irritates me, I'm sure it irritates you, George, right, is that we make this stuff for free.
Yeah.
Right? People watch it for free. Yeah. Right? So we're not asking for much. Just press the subscribe button. But then for me, it's sort of like I subscribe to podcasts and I'm actually glad that I subscribe to them because
they pop up.
Because I get a little notification saying Dodgy's new episode's out now. And I go, well, who's on that? Yeah. If I want to watch it, I'm watching it there and then. Yeah. If I'm busy, I'll watch it when I get time. Yeah. But I always look at these things and I think there's definitely a bit of that, but I also think there's a lot of people that just watch randomly and they just sort of bounce around. There's that, you know, if you were charging a subscription fee, maybe you know, you'd have more subscribers because people would only be able to watch your content. But then you fall into the trap of people then saying, well, why would I pay for your content when I can get James English, Dodge Whittles, Sean Atwood for free? Why would I pay for yours? So I think, you know, it's just become the norm that we do all this shit for free.
I think it's weird, isn't it? You are right. But YouTube do pay well.
Yeah.
YouTube do pay well. And then if you've got brand partners on board, which we have.
I'm not complaining.
No, not complaining. But I think you have to look at podcasting in all the benefits that happen. But there are so many podcasts out there.
Yeah.
But what's happened in 2020, everyone was going, podcast. 2024, people realising that podcast is hard work, it's labour intensive, and it costs money.
Yeah.
So your normal body's going, I'm going to do a podcast. After 7 episodes, they fall flat because they can't keep up with the amount of work that it takes. Well, and also you don't see the financial rewards there until you're a couple of years in.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, Dodge, I mean, I went into this and I said, look, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a burden to you. So I said, I want to get sponsors for season 1 so that we're not out of pocket, right? And we were lucky and blessed. Yeah. So thank you to all our sponsors because we managed to get our season 1 funded by sponsorship, and we've been very lucky in getting all the seasons funded with sponsorship. So our podcast has been in profit since day 1. Yeah. But the work they do, I mean, you know, it's for me, you know, I don't know how you do your podcasts, but I normally do them in a block.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So
what in a block in a day?
No. So I get a block. So I get 3 or 4 days together.
Okay.
And I go, right, we're smashing the season out.
Okay.
I either straddle it over a couple of weeks, or I do 1 day a week. But I try and do, if I can, a season over 2 weeks, just so that I can literally get everybody in, and also it means that for the guys, you know, they've got the content, they've got the cameraman, you've got the same cameraman obviously for the day, same man.
How many do you do in a day? What's the most you've done 3 in 1 day? You've done 3 in 1 day.
Yeah,
that's hard graft.
I mean, it is. But the thing is, I enjoy doing it.
Yes.
But the thing is, because I'm busy doing other stuff,
you want to cram it all in.
For me, it's like, you know, I think if you are a podcaster and all you do is podcasting, I mean, you know, if you look at Sean Atwood's output, I mean, he seems to be like doing, I mean, it feels like he's doing 10 episodes a week. It's just so much content. Yeah. But for me, it's sort of like, even if I was just doing podcasts, I think I'd want to sort of try and focus, if I can, on the quality. And that's why I've always admired your podcast, Dodge, because you've always picked interesting guests and a variety of guests, and they all have the thing in common that they've all done something. Yeah,
they've all lived an eventful life.
Exactly.
Do you know what's weird though? We've done 240 episodes.
Wow.
And put on Apple and Spotify. We've only been on YouTube the last 15 months.
Wow.
I think we put like 80 or 90 just on YouTube.
Do you know what's mad?
Go on.
So, and this will make you laugh. So you've done 240 episodes
on Apple and Spotify.
Wow. I mean,
that's 240 conversations.
Wow.
And all started for a bit of fun in lockdown.
I've only done 26.
Yeah. But it's mad though, isn't it? It's mad. But you know, it's gone from Harry Redknapp.
We've got a bit of catching up to do.
Yeah, mate. But you've got to be in it for the long term, right?
Absolutely.
You've got to stick with it. You have to stick with it. Too many people go, oh, don't see the results thereafter, and they go, oh, sod that, crash and burn. But there's some really good podcasters out there. And you know what I love about it? Everyone seems to, I collaborate. I like other podcasters doing well. Good luck to you. There's some great ones out there.
If someone set up a thing called Great Lives, you probably have the answer.
No, I wouldn't.
but
I genuinely wouldn't, because this isn't my business. I've got a festival, other businesses. This is something that I'm bringing good content to people, bringing people together, and everyone seems to really like it.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm doing it for those reasons rather than going, I've got to make this money, I've got to make this money each month, you know?
I mean, I think you know, out of all the podcasters out there, you know, I was drawn to your podcast early doors, and I've watched loads of them. And when we spoke, you know, early part of this year, and I said I'd love to come on, and then something happened in January, and then I think you had something happen, and then I had something happen. But you know, I'm glad I managed to get on because I knew that there'd be stuff that we'd be able to talk about and go into. I mean, I know we could probably talk for another 3 hours.
We could do. We're on for 2 hours now. Seen it, but that club game, because that's my world. There's so many worlds we cross over on, and I'm sure we might be able to do something together. I don't know what.
For sure.
I don't know what. I like how you're putting yourself out there for everything. You're just going, you know what, I put myself out there for that. I put it out there. I'll open doors. I go and see people about funding. I go and see people like this. You're just opening doors everywhere.
Well, you have to.
You have to as an entrepreneur. That's the only thing you can do.
Yeah, and I think, as I said earlier, it's criminal if people don't know what you do.
Yeah.
Right. And so I always let people know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you know, I think
some people might not like that, by the way.
Right.
Do you know some people might look in and go, I don't like them putting themselves out. But as an entrepreneur, no one else is going to promote you. You got to promote yourself. Yeah. You've got to promote what you're doing. You know, if you're in a job, you don't have to promote yourself. You're guaranteed your money each month. Da, 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 da.
But if I said to you, Dodge, I'm doing this, you said it's not for me, I'm not going to burst into tears.
No.
I'll just go, okay, well, I'll go and talk to somebody else.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you know, I think, you know, people do focus, I think, a lot on the negatives. And I think you have to focus on the positives. And you know, when I was doing sales, one of the best quotes I had was, every time you get a no, you're closer to a yes.
Yeah, true. I always say every time you get a no, it means not yet.
Yeah. Oh, that is a good one.
It's true though, not yet. Okay.
But I think you have to look at the positives. And you know, I've had events that I've done and I've lost money on. Yeah. I've had films that I've done that haven't worked out. I've had films that I've done that have worked out. But I think that when you're doing anything in life, you know, I've met people that put tens of thousands into podcasts. And I've like done their bollocks for it, you know, and they've gone, fucking hell, I wish I hadn't have done that. But I think the problem is, when you look at a podcast from the outside, I can do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I could do that. Yeah. But it's
That's
not
the same
about...
as putting a festival on. People come to our festival, 30,000 people. They go, oh, I can do that. They go and put on a festival, lose half a bar or maybe £1 million, or the next year they go again and they're losing more money. It's not easy. You've got to be in this game.
Absolutely.
You've got to be a promoter if you're in it and stick with it.
It's our graft. And that's the other thing. You know, like for me, you know, I'll do 3 posts a week about my podcast, you know, and then I'll be there for the live chat. And
do you do all that? Do you live chat?
Yeah, yeah.
What, on Instagram?
Yeah.
Or?
No, on
YouTube.
On YouTube.
Is that good? I've never done it. Any good?
Do you know something? I think it's good because some people do actually want to talk to you.
Okay.
So you can, but then
do you get the numbers though? You do because a lot of the things you see people do lives on Instagram, the numbers aren't really there.
Well, I think. I mean, look, the most I think we've had is, I think we had 1,000 people on the live chat
on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Okay.
But what you got to think.
Did you promote that, or did you just go right? Let's go
every week. Every week. But sometimes we have 300-400, sometimes we have 500, sometimes we have 800, sometimes we have 1,000. But the thing is, what you do attract is you attract a few idiots as well.
Okay.
So you get a few idiots on there going, oh, you know, just slagging the guest off or slagging you off or saying something stupid.
Have you heard that when people slag you off?
All the time, yeah. But people troll you, you know what I mean? I think the best one is when...
What, trolling you? Are they on...
No, they send you a message. So they find your Instagram page.
And then slag you off.
They send you a message and go, you're this, you're that. And you go, who are you?
Yeah.
But I don't interact with them on social media. But on YouTube I do.
So, so if someone pipes at YouTube, you'll have a go back with it. I'll do that.
Give it to them. And it's only because the way I look at it, right, when I'm on social media, right, you know, I don't want to feed the trolls, right? But on YouTube, I don't mind feeding the trolls, right? Because some of these people need to be put in their boxes, and I'm quite good at putting people in their boxes. And I can spend an hour just giving it to somebody.
Okay.
And I have quite. So yeah, if you have a look at the comments,
I'll have a look.
They're quite funny. Some of the comments, but I think generally you do get good comments. But I think for whatever reason, people tend to troll people for fun. Oh, she's fat, or she's ugly, or she can't act, or he can't act, or he's not really a gangster, or he's not really a doorman. He didn't really know them, and it's just all bollocks.
Do you know who you should do a movie on? Marcus Redwood.
He's great. He's great, Marcus. Yeah.
Marcus Redwood. I promise you, if you did a movie on his life, I reckon that would take off.
I bet have a chat to him.
Yeah,
because I remember him from the rave days.
Mate, he's the real deal, mate.
Yeah,
he's the real deal, and he's humble.
Yeah,
and he's switched on, and he tells an amazing story.
Right.
And everything he said is bang on.
Right.
He's done 3 episodes with us now, coming back for a 4th episode. So I mean, we've become good friends, you know, over the time, and Mate, Marcus Redwood, just remember that name.
Right. Yeah, no, I think I see him on one of your. Was it something to do with Thailand or something?
He was one of the ones Thailand, but the stories he's got are phenomenal.
Amazing.
And if someone did a movie on him, it would work.
Wow.
I'd back that.
Right, well, I'll have a chat. We'll have a chat.
Let's have a chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terry, mate, I've really enjoyed this.
I have as well.
Yeah, mate. It's like 2 odd hours
when
now.
we're doing part 2.
Part 2. There will be a part 2. We'll delve into a bit more. But mate, you're a good character, man, and I can see the entrepreneur journey you've gone on.
Yeah.
Naughty and ballsy in your 20s, 30s, 40s, creating the movies, opening doors now to bigger things, hitting your 50s. I think it's a great thing you're on.
Well, do you know what's interesting as well? I've got a really mad selection of friends, like from billionaires to millionaires to hedge fund people to lawyers to accountants to celebrities
to dinner ladies to whatever it may be. Chat to everyone.
But what I love about it is, you know, there's an old saying about, you know, your network is your net worth, and I do think as you get older you do gravitate, and you do find the right people to be in your life, you know, and
treat everyone the same.
Absolutely.
I can't stand. I've got people I know treat CEOs to dinner ladies differently, or the cleaner or somewhere is differently. Treat everyone the same and be kind. Just be nice. Unless
they deserve to.
Unless someone fucks you off, and then you just switch. Terry, mate, I loved it.
Lovely. Thanks, Dodge.
You're a gentleman. Good luck to you, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Good luck.
Cheers, pal. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Can you do us a favour and subscribe to the channel? It's totally free and it massively helps our show. Cheers, guys.